All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Zoom In for Success Part 2 with Marjorie Rawhouser. Dr. Rawhouser is the Assistant Dean of Transfer Studies in the School of Liberal Arts at Arundel Community College. She has graciously offered to do a Part 2 with new tips and tricks of the trade to using Zoom. And I am going to turn it over to Marjorie. Please keep yourselves muted. If you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat and we'll get to them periodically throughout. Thank you, and take it away, Marjorie.
Thanks, Wendy. Welcome, everybody. I should say this is kind of part 2, but there will be some review from part 1. So if you didn't come to part 1, don't worry, we're going to review some stuff from part 1 as well. Also, I'm going to kind of run this like I run my classes. So if you were expecting to just come and it was going to just be a webinar and you could just like sit back and just listen while you do something else, like if you want to do that, I'm okay with that. You can just turn your camera off and just listen. But I'm hoping that some of you will want to be kind of my students so I can run it like I run my classes and you can see how we use all the different features. So, welcome. I also want to say this class is primarily about the technical tools of Zoom and not as much about student engagement itself. Although I would say that some of these tools and knowing how to use them will help you facilitate engagement of your students in your class. But this is primarily more like a technical session, not necessarily about engaging students in a remote environment. All right. I'll also say there are a ton of helpful videos and user forums and all kinds of things online that help you use Zoom. So I'm going to touch on some things just to make you aware of them, because I have found in using Zoom for over the past almost year, I'm continually finding things I didn't know existed. In fact, in the last class, someone said, can you do this? And I said, I don't think so. And then I looked and sure enough, you could. So I'm going to kind of make you aware of things so that you can go on your own if you want to use them and kind of find out more about them. But if you don't even know they're available, you wouldn't even know to go looking for them, basically. So I kind of have a rhythm that I use in my classes. I teach right now. I used to be an engineering faculty member, and now I'm an assistant dean. So I have a full-time administrative job, but I still do teach a class called Professional Skills for STEM, which is a 1-credit class about resume writing, how to search for careers, how to be professional in the workplace. And I teach that over Zoom. So that's how I've learned most of these tips and tricks of using Zoom over the course of teaching that 1-credit class 3 or 4 times now over Zoom. I will admit that teaching a class like that is not as challenging as trying to teach something like calculus or chemistry over Zoom. So take that, for what you will. Some of those are a little more challenging, but I'll give you the tips of kind of what I've learned. So I kind of try to have a class rhythm each class. I usually start with a slide at the beginning that kind of says what we're going to do today and reminds them of coming events, what I would normally write on the whiteboard if I was actually in a physical classroom. I generally start with a poll, something to do with the day's activities. And we're going to do a poll in a minute to kind of get to know where you guys are all coming from. Then I usually talk about the lesson. I might share my screen and show a couple things. I usually have a short video that either has to do with the lesson or has to do with something kind of current in the world, just a few minutes. I almost always try to have a breakout room so the students have a chance to go into smaller groups, because I have found that in a class of 20 students, it can be very difficult to get them to participate because it's hard enough in a physical classroom. It's really challenging for me on Zoom. So I try to have a breakout room where I put them in groups of 4 or 5 around some topic every time so that they have a chance to be in a smaller group and share with each other. I've gotten mixed feedback on my student opinion forums. A few people always say, I love the breakout rooms. A few people say, let's not do as many breakout rooms. So, you can decide whether you want to subject your students to breakout rooms or not. And then I usually have a short presentation that I show. And the last thing I always usually do is I leave about 10 minutes at the end where I kind of dismiss the class early and I stay on and let them stay on and ask questions. Kind of the equivalent of, how it is in a physical classroom. After class, there's always 3 or 4 students that come up to you at the end of class because they have a question they didn't want to ask in front of everybody. So this is kind of the equivalent of that. It gives them a chance to ask a question. if someone has a really something they don't want to discuss in front of other students, you can always send students back to the waiting room and then have them come back when you're finished with other students. There's all kinds of things you can do. So that's kind of a little bit of what's going to happen today and how I'm going to kind of run this session. So I'm going to start with a poll, and I'm going to launch the poll, and you should see it pop up somewhere, either on your phone or your screen. Hopefully you see that. Just go ahead and answer. And if you are hosting a meeting, what you will see is you will see the poll questions, and you will see sort of like, as people are answering, how the voting is gone. Like right now it says 38% of you have voted. I think I will show you later how to add polls ahead of time. You can add polls on the fly or add them ahead of time. The one thing you have to do is you have to have polls enabled in your Zoom account. And I think that is not, the default I think is for them not to be enabled. So if you do want to use polls in a class, you need to make sure that you have enabled that in your account ahead of time. Another thing I recently learned is that you can switch hosts in Zoom. For example, Wendy was the host of this meeting, and then she turned it over to me. One thing about polls is only the original host can add polls, which I don't know why they have that restriction, but something to keep in mind, because you may not be aware of it. If someone turns the host duties over to you and you say, oh, I'll just add a poll real quick, you realize you can't do it. All right, so I'm going to end the polling, and I'm going to show the results. So you should be seeing the results of sort of how people have used chat a lot. They've used nonverbal feedback. That's good. They know how to share. They know how to use breakout rooms. Okay, that's good. I'm going to show you my second poll. Let's see if I can do that. So I'd like to see kind of how you guys are using Zoom. A lot of meeting attenders, it looks like. Teaching and attending classes. Some open office hours. All right, most of you have voted, so I'm going to go ahead and end the polling, and I'll share the results. Looks like everybody attending meetings, which I guess makes sense because you're all at this meeting, so that makes sense, and you can see how people are using it. Okay, so sometimes you can, if you start with a poll, you can sort of use that a little bit to kind of gauge where your students are with the material. I'm going to talk right now about how you can switch your views. And I have a little handout that you can kind of like follow along if you want to, and if you want to take some notes. But again, as I said, a lot of this stuff is really easily available. You can find it online if you're not sure how to do it. But I try to go over this with my students in the first class because they may not have used it a lot. I would also say that a lot of things I'm going to talk about are assuming you're using a computer or a laptop. It can be a little bit different on phones and tablets, and I try to kind of mention that. I would not recommend, if you're hosting a complex meeting, that you do it on a phone or a tablet. If you're just gonna like chat with your friends, probably fine. But if you're trying to use breakout rooms and polls and screen sharing, doing it on a phone or an iPad is really challenging. And I would definitely recommend practice before you do it if you're gonna do that. But if you go to your upper right-hand corner, if you're on a PC, you will see a view button that has a grid there. If you click on that, you'll see speaker view and gallery view. And the gallery view is what, depending on your age, you might call the Brady Bunch view or the Hollywood Squares view. That's going to show all the squares. The default is to show up to 25 people. You can change that in your settings to show, I think it's 49 people, so you can see the whole meeting. If you go to speaker view, you will see the speaker in the center, and then you will see other people around you. And what it usually does is it's actively sense who is speaking. So that person will automatically end up in the middle of the screen. I will give you a warning. If you are attending a meeting and you are not the speaker, please be sure to have yourself muted, because something you might not know is that if you're not muted and you rustle a paper, you're going to be the speaker and you're going to show up on everybody's screen in the middle if they're on speaker view. Just a little warning. If you're on a phone or a tablet, on a phone, yeah, someone said that she only sees the speaker. It might depend on what kind of monitor you have. Like when I go to speaker view, I see a little row at the top of a few people. So it might depend on what you're using. And also it's different on a phone or a tablet. If you're on a phone, I think you can swipe left and right between speaker and gallery. I think on a tablet, if you just like tap the tablet, you'll see those controls show up somewhere. And I know on an iPad, you can switch between active speaker and the speaker that you choose. So again, my only advice would be kind of experiment with your device and make sure you understand how it works if you're going to host a meeting. You can also do what's called pinning a video. To do that on your laptop, if you hover over whatever person you want to pin, you should see three little dots, or you should see an option that says pin. If you pin that video, that person, no matter who is speaking, stays in the middle of your screen. That is handy if you if you're using like an ASL interpreter and you want to see them in the middle of the screen. That's one way that you can use that. Another thing is, if you're doing like some kind of like public speaking and you're pairing the students up in breakout rooms, this is two of them, they can pin the person speaking to them if they want to just kind of like have a better way to look at the person's expression and that kind of stuff. So that's things you can do. And then generally there's an unpin. And again, if you're on a phone or a tablet, there's different ways. I think that you can also go into the participants list and maybe click on that person. There may be an option to pin them. I'm not as familiar with phones and tablets, but it's available frequently. If you have a phone or a tablet, what's available on the control bar in the laptop is available by going to the participants list, either by that person's name or at the bottom. So that's just a little bit of a key there. So just make sure you get everything. All right, you can also rename yourself. If you don't like your name, you can pick a new name. And again, to do that, if you're on a PC, if you go up to in the corner, the three dots on your picture, one of the choices is rename. So for example, if I wanted to put my school in front of my name, I can go there and then it shows up. I believe that changes you make in a meeting do not, they are only good for this meeting. So if you want to change your name, you just got your formal name and you go by a nickname, you can change that in your actual account. You can change the name that appears. Likewise, if you're using one of your someone else's laptop in your family and their name shows up, you can change it to your name for that meeting so people aren't confused, why they recognize you, but it's not your name there. I love the fact that people's names are on the pictures because it really helps to reinforce like who your students are, and it helps if you're in a meeting and you can't remember someone's name, like it's right there. It's great. So, and again, I believe on a phone or a tablet, you can find that in the participants list. Select your name for the participants list, select more or the three dots, and you should see an option to rename yourself in there. So we're gonna experiment a little bit with reactions right now. If you're on a laptop or a PC, somewhere on the control bar, you should see a thing labeled reactions. And if you click that open, you should see a choice of a thumbs up, a clapping hand, someone laughing, a heart. So if you see that, give me a thumbs up or any other reaction you want to do. Again, I believe on a PC or on a phone or a tablet, you will find that in the participants list. So it'll be, if it's not on the control bar, it'll be on the participants list. And you might have noticed, some of you noticed that the default color for that little thumbs up is yellow. You can go into your own settings and you can change it to whatever color you want. Well, not whatever color, but there's a range of skin tones that you can change it to. So that's reactions. You will also notice that the reactions themselves, they show up and everyone can see them. And they stay for some period of time and then they disappear. Again, if you want to use reactions in a meeting that you're hosting, you have to enable that in your account. So if you don't have that enabled, and it will not be available in your meetings. Likewise, there's a thing called nonverbal feedback, which if you're on a laptop, you probably see in the same place that you see the reactions. And you'll see that there it has raise hand, it has a check mark for yes, a X for no, it has go slower, go faster. Unlike reactions, if you use one of those, I believe only the host will see it. So you could use the yes and no if you want to take a poll. People can just check yes or check no, and then you as the host will see that. Again, if you don't have the reactions button, look in your participants menu. It may be at the bottom of the participants menu, or it may be next to your name as an option. Also keep that in mind when you're hosting meetings, because frequently, depending on the audience, you will have people who do not use Zoom really hardly ever. And you'll always have a few people that just are insisting that they don't have that available. And maybe they don't, but it helps if you can remember that it's different on different devices. And so if you can give them kind of all the options, look in the toolbar, look in the participants list, tap the screen, swipe left to right, all those things will help you in terms of running your meeting. All right, those are some like quick things about the visual interface. I'm going to now show you a little video about screen sharing. One thing I did for this meeting is that I enabled a feature, or I had Wendy enable it for me since it's her account, a feature that will share the Zoom window while you're sharing, which means that you will see all my Zoom controls while I'm sharing. Normally that feature is not checked, which is a good thing. What that means is that if you have a video that you're showing, you can have the chat window open or the waiting room open or your Zoom controls on the screen in front of it on your screen, and your class members or your meeting attendees won't see it. And that usually makes sense. I went ahead and had it enabled to show the Zoom controls for this meeting because I want to help you guys learn how to use Zoom. So you may see some Zoom controls while I'm showing the video. This is a little video about screen sharing. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And for a minute, you'll be seeing double because you'll see my screen. You'll see yourself on my screen. I also will point out, I don't think I can show you this, but when you share your screen, on the screen sharing option, there's a little box in the bottom left that says share sound. If you're going to show a video and you want the people to also hear the video, you need to make sure you share sound. And so now you should hopefully see the whole screen. And now I'm going to pull up the video. Again, normally you wouldn't see my controls. You would just see the video.
In this video, you'll learn how to share content within a Zoom meeting. Simply select Share Screen at the bottom of your meeting window to get started. From here, you'll be given various options for sharing, such as sharing your full desktop or an individual application you have open on your computer. You can also access advanced sharing options and the ability to share an individual file from a specific location as well. If you're planning to share content that contains audio, such as a third-party video, be sure to select Share Computer Sound in the bottom left-hand corner to ensure that your participants can hear your computer sound as you're sharing. When you're ready, select Share on the right-hand side. Once content sharing begins, you can always stop the share to stop sharing content with others at any time. If you need to pause the share to take a momentary break or prepare other materials, this is an option as well. Or if you'd like to share a new piece of content, you can simply select New Share and select another piece of content for a seamless transition.
Okay, so that was a little video about content sharing. You probably saw some of my Zoom windows.
Hi everyone, my name is Kevin. Today I want to show you how you can properly present a PowerPoint.
Sorry. I will say that I have found that no matter how much I practice, my Zoom classes never go quite as smoothly as my in-person classes in the transitions between videos and talking and that kind of stuff. But you probably saw some controls pop up during that because I was trying to see if the chat was open. Normally, if you don't have the Zoom window, show Zoom window feature enabled, your attendees or your class wouldn't see all the stuff you're doing on Zoom in the background. They would just see what you're showing. One thing I will also warn you, which you might not be ready for unless you've tried it, is that the first time I did a share content, my little toolbar went to my other monitor because I have a dual monitor, and I could not figure out how to stop sharing because I could not find my toolbar. And it's like, oh, it's over here on my other monitor. So just be aware that it might move somewhere that you're not expecting when you're trying to stop sharing. You also noticed that you have some advanced options on there. I like to sometimes use the advanced option of share the sound only. This is really good if you want to, if maybe you want to play music while people are coming into a meeting, or if you're having a dance party, you want to play the music and everybody's dancing around and you don't want to, be showing the screen at the same time. There also are some opportunities. You can either share your desktop, in which case people will see everything you're doing except the Zoom window, or you can share the application only. I have done both, and I'm not sure which one I actually like better. I would say experiment with it a little bit. One thing I would say if you share the application only, for example, if you share the PowerPoint application, when the presentation ends, the sharing ends automatically and flips you back into the meeting, which is kind of nice. I like to usually just share my desktop, and that way, if I have a different presentation, I can easily pull it up and that kind of stuff. But that's kind of up to you. So I'm gonna share my screen again and show you some controls. Just make sure we're in here. So hopefully, let's see. So right now, hopefully you're seeing my screen with all of you in a nice gallery view. If you want other people to be able to share, at the bottom here, you should see next to the little green share screen button, there's a little caret. If you go to advanced sharing options, right now it says only the host can share. If I change that to all participants, then I could let anyone share their screen or share a presentation. This is really good in class if you have students doing presentations, or if you're going to go into a breakout room and you want people to be able to share things in the breakout room, make sure that that is enabled. Otherwise, they might get in there and then they can't share because they're not the host. You can also change the host. I'm going to click on the participants list here. Hopefully you'll see it. Let's see. There we go. Not popping up. Or is it popping up here? Let's see. I'm screen sharing at the same time, which is a little weird. All right, never mind. All right, I'll stop sharing. So now we should be back to normal. But in the participants list, you will notice that you can make other people the host or the co-host. Generally, you can only have one host at a time, although there are some ways to have alternate hosts depending on what kind of account you have. But you can so you can move the host duties to someone else, or you can have a co-host. Co-host can do most things hosts can do. They can't do breakout rooms, however, and I don't think they can launch polls. But they can do things like let people in from the waiting room, or they can share content that only the host can share. So it can be handy to have a co-host if you want someone else to be looking at the waiting room. What I usually do, fortunately, since I have two monitors, I have my laptop and an additional monitor, I usually have the waiting room and the chat and my college email open on my laptop while I'm using the main monitor for my class. That way, if there's somebody that can't remember where the Zoom link is, or someone's asking a question in the chat because they actually can't hear me and I'm just talking away thinking everybody hears me, you can see that. Or if someone comes in late to class, you can let them in from the waiting room. I'll mention that too. I use a waiting room in my classes because I like to be ready to start class and let the students in. As much as I would love to have students be able to come into the classroom early, I prefer to kind of make sure I'm ready before the students can come in. So I have a waiting room enabled. Depending on what kind of account you have, you probably have to use either a password or a waiting room as a security feature. I do not use a password for my classes because I really don't want the students to constantly be emailing me during class saying I can't find the password. But again, that's kind of up to you. And I'll talk a little bit later about setting up your class in a way that I think works pretty well for students. I'm going to give you guys a chance to experience breakout rooms. And I'm going to try to show you kind of some, I'll do them first and I'll show you some of the ways to do breakout rooms. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do automatic breakout rooms. So I'm going to go ahead and assign you to 5 different breakout rooms. I'm going to assign them automatically. And then I'm going to basically, I have it set up so that you will not be automatically moved to the breakout room. We'll see how that works. So what should happen is when I hit open rooms, somewhere on your screen, something should pop saying you're being invited to a breakout room. And then when you click on that, you will magically be teleported to the breakout room. I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes just to experience it. So what I would like you to do is just introduce yourselves, where you're from, which is obviously something we always like to talk about, and maybe just either something about what you've been doing that's different in your classes, how you like Zoom, what you found challenging, just whatever one thing you want to share with people, and then we'll come back into the main room. So I'm going to open the rooms and hopefully you can find that little button that lets you go to a room. Tom, I see you're still in the main room. It's okay if you want to stay. I don't know if you're just having trouble finding it or, oh, I see. Okay, it's connecting the audio. Welcome back, everyone. Hello. We have one room, room 2, man. They're really serious. They haven't come back yet. They get kicked out when the room's closed. So, 5 is still, so, all right. So I see everybody flying back into the main room. Hi, Susan. Good to see you. My AACC person. You look like you're in the middle of campus. I know you're not really, but you look like you are.
Okay.
And it is one of my partners in the breakout room reminded me to mute again. So if you are unmuted, please mute.
And as a host, you can mute people as well, I believe. I'm not sure where that, I forget where that is. And you can, or you can actually hit, I think you can actually mute other people. And then you can also ask them to unmute. You can't unmute them, but you can send them a message saying the host wants you to unmute. So there is a way to do that. Okay, so that was just a little taste of what breakout rooms are like. I'm going to show you a couple things about breakout rooms. I'm going to try to share my screen and show you. All right. So hopefully you guys see my little breakout rooms thing on the middle of the screen there. Maybe somebody could say yes, or Wendy, can you see if you can see the breakout rooms?
Yes.
Okay.
You see the breakout room.
Okay, cool. So what I did was I did it automatically. So it puts you in rooms automatically. You can move people. If I wanted to, for example, I wanted to move Laura to room 2, I could move her to room 2. If you're assigning people manually, if you had someone who wasn't in a room, if you click on this little number here, it will give you a list of who's not. Oh, I see Mercy might have not been here when I assigned rooms. I could assign Mercy's iPhone to this room if I wanted to. You'll also see that you can add more rooms. You can recreate them. You have some options here. You can allow participants to choose rooms. So if you're having breakout sessions in a meeting and you have 3 or 4 topics, you want people to be able to choose, you can allow them to choose, and then they will get a list and can choose where they go to. You can have the people move automatically to the breakout rooms, which I did not enable that feature. If I did, then when I opened the rooms, you would fly there automatically without you having to click any kind of a button. I have it enabled so you can come back to the main room at any time. And then if you do come back to the main room, you can also go back and forth between the breakout rooms. As a host, you can also go into the breakout rooms yourself. You can't see it here because the rooms aren't open, but if they were open, you would have a little join button next to each room. And that allows you to go back and forth to the breakout rooms. If you want to just kind of like see how your students are doing or check in on them. One thing I have found that is helpful is if you go into the breakout room, maybe keep your camera off. So then it's more like you're just kind of like lurking in the back, not lurking, that's a bad word to use, but you're just kind of in the back and the students will be a little bit less intimidated with what they want to do. So those are just some things about breakout rooms. And again, you have to have them enabled. You have to have them enabled. I think I stopped sharing. You have to have them enabled in your account to use them, and only the host can actually use them. So I'm going to mention also the chat feature. Again, if you're on a PC, it's at the bottom. There's a little chat box. And I have it enabled right now, I believe, so that you can chat with anyone or everyone. So if you look at the chat, you'll see that right now it probably defaults and it says to everyone. So whatever you send will go to everyone, but there should be a little caret there you can click down and you can select anybody you want to. The question is, the host enable the chat? You have to select that in your account. I think the default for my account was that you could not private chat. So in other words, you could send a chat to the host and that was it. I enabled send chat to everyone and also send, I forget what it's called, but send chat individually. A lot of people for their classes do not allow the students to chat with each other privately. And I kind of understand that, but at the same time, I have it enabled so that anybody can chat with anybody privately in my classes and in my meetings. It's particularly good in meetings because I have found that I've been in a lot of meetings where the private chat is not enabled. So any chat that you send automatically goes to everyone in the meeting. And of course, these are people you don't see very often. And so immediately people are sending chats like, hey, Jeff, hey, so-and-so, because it's all they can do. Whereas if private chat were enabled, you could privately chat to that person, and no, the host cannot see the private chats. So Wendy, if you send a message to Anne or Ashley, I won't see it. It just goes to the person. Just be careful when you're sending chats that you have the right thing selected in that box. So I'll say that. So that's chat. So because it can be embarrassing if you accidentally chat to the wrong person, or if you chat them to everyone that you meant to chat privately. So just keep that in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is kind of camera awareness. A couple of tricks with your camera. One thing is that depending on where your camera is, like it can always look like you're looking down or looking up. Like if your little square is in the bottom right-hand corner and you're always looking at yourself, it looks like you're looking down. If you have a habit of always looking at yourself, here's a trick. You can move the squares around on your screen. So you can put your square right by your camera. That way, when you look at yourself in the mirror, you're looking at the camera. That's just a little trick or put the speaker square right under the camera. That way, if you're looking at the speaker, it looks like you're looking at the camera. And also, this is kind of a little bit delicate, but I have been in meetings where people, especially women, seem to not be aware of the location of their body relative to their camera. If you're at your desk and your coffee cup is on your bookshelf up here, and you stand up and lean over your camera to get that coffee cup off the bookshelf, sometimes the camera is looking on your shirt. There's no other way to say it. I've seen that happen in meetings. So just be aware of the camera location relative to yourself. I just don't want you to be embarrassed in front of your students. Also, people have a tendency to sometimes forget that their camera is on. If you've got your camera on and you decide to start checking emails, that's great. Now you put your email screen in front of your camera, you forgot your camera was on. People will not see your email, they will see you. So just be aware of that. You can sometimes minimize Zoom, either on purpose or accidentally. Just because it's minimized and you don't see yourself doesn't mean other people don't see you. So just a couple of camera awareness tricks to kind of be aware of. Let's see. Were there any other questions in the chat that I should go ahead and answer while we have a little bit of time here? Let's see if I can pull my chat up here.
There was one more. It was a second part, and I apologize if you addressed it. That Monica asked earlier, when you're hosting a meeting and sharing your screen, can the host give reactions? I've not been able to do that.
Do not know the answer to that. So in other words, you want to like basically give a thumbs up while you're sharing your screen or something. I do not know the answer to that. I have never tried it. And
I know that as the original host, when you did your poll, even though I made you host, just so you know, when you're ceding control over, I could not participate in the poll.
Really?
I could see it, but I can't participate in it.
Interesting.
So I wonder if it's the
because you were
same.
the original host. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a question about the chat being disabled. Yeah, some people will disable the chat in a meeting, and that's something the host has to enable. And I don't think it can be changed on the fly. I think it has to be set in the account. I don't know if it's a global setting or a per meeting setting, because there are some things that are set globally and there's some things that are set like for that meeting only, but I don't think you can change it on the fly. I don't know. Recording. I believe what it will record is the view that the host sees. That was a question from Susan.
I'm actually going to give a different point of view. I'm
Okay.
sorry, because I have to deal with a lot of recording, and it actually drives me crazy. Our recordings, and I don't know whether this is a setting or maybe you know this, Marjorie, but it is in the speaker view. So I see the gallery. I usually have the gallery up when I record meetings, and then when I go back and I look at the recording, it's the speaker view, and which is disconcerting because I expect to see what I saw, and it's not the exact thing. So.
I will look into that and see. That'll be for Zoom part 3. I'll look into it. But I know that I've been involved in some virtual choirs where they've done recordings over Zoom and they've recorded the gallery view. So I don't know if that's a setting somewhere again.
I bet it is, and that would be great to know.
I will check that out. I will see if I can find that out, and I can let you know, Wendy, if you want to send everybody a message. I do know that there is a way that you can, in your settings and your visual settings, you can also set it up so that you don't see the people whose cameras are off. So that can be handy if you're trying to do videos and you only want to see a few people. I don't know the answer to, does the recording record the breakout rooms? That is a good question. I'm assuming it does not. I would assume it just records. I have to go back and look at the tape the last time I did this. I would say I don't record my classes. There's mixed views of that. I don't record them because I want the students to feel like it's a class and that they should come to the class and not depend on the class being recorded for them to watch later. So that's just, so I don't have a lot of experience with recording. Can you make the boxes smaller? Only see 5 boxes. Monica, do you mind telling me what kind of a device you're on? Are you on a laptop or are you on some kind of a smaller device?
I'm on a laptop.
I
always thought it was a problem with the laptop, but you know, I'm seeing your screen, and when you were sharing your screen, your boxes were much smaller than mine. And I only have 13 students, and I can't see them all when I share my screen.
Because usually the gallery view defaults to 25, and then you can change it to 49 if you want to. So I have mine set at 49 right now, which will give
maybe
you
if I set it at 49, it'll be better. But I've never been able to see more than 4 boxes or 5 boxes. If I don't see me, I can see 5 boxes.
So what do you see right now? You see only 5 boxes right now?
No, I see 20.
You see everybody now, but you're having the problem when you host.
When I host and when I share my screen.
I don't know. I can do some research on that. I will see what I can find out.
That would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. All right. So let's see what else I was going. Any other questions while we have a little break? We have about 15 minutes left. Anybody have any questions? You can either raise your hand or just talk or put it in the chat. No? Okay. I'll show you a couple of things, let's see, about sound and video. So again, if you're on a computer or a laptop, usually in the bottom left-hand side, you see your sound and video controls. So your sound control looks like a microphone, basically, and you can click the microphone to mute and unmute it, and when you're muted, it has a red line through it. Another thing you can do, though, you'll see a little caret next to it. If you click that caret open, if you have more than one microphone available, for example, I have a webcam, but I also have a microphone on my PC. It allows you to select which microphone you want to use. It also will allow you to select your speakers if you have more than one speaker. So that's just something to keep in mind. On the video, again, looks like a camera. And if you click that on and off, you go between stop video and show video. You'll notice that a lot of people have a black box with their name on it. That is kind of the default, and that's whatever name is associated with your account. If you want to have a picture or a cartoon or an icon, you can go into your Zoom account at zoom.us and you can associate a picture with your account. And that's how you get a picture to show with your square. Susan asked, when I sharing screen with Mike, can you see that? It depends on how you share. If you're sharing your desktop, then yes, they will see your cursor moving around. If you share only the application, like you share just the application, they will not see your cursor. They will just see the presentation or the Word document or something. Yeah. There was a question about the breakout rooms. To initiate the breakout rooms. If you have breakout rooms enabled, and let me show, I can actually show you this here. What I'll do is I'll do a recreate. So that gets rid of all my rooms. You can either assign them automatically, assign them manually, or let participants choose. So if you assign automatically, let's say I have 4 breakout rooms, what it does is it just puts you all into breakout rooms, kind of evenly divided as best you can. I can move people to different rooms. I can exchange with another person. And then when you're ready to have people go to their rooms, you just click open all rooms. And then depending how you have your options set, like right now it's set that They don't move automatically. If I check this, then when I open the rooms, you would all just automatically like fly away to those rooms. You might have noticed that I sent a broadcast message while you're in the room. You do have the ability, once people are in the rooms, you will not be assigned to a room yourself. You will stay in the main room all by yourself. And you can go to a breakout room if you want to, but you won't automatically be assigned to one. But you will still have the breakout rooms feature. You will see that there's an option once they're in the rooms to send a broadcast message. So you could send something like, don't forget to ask these questions. It's a pretty limited number of characters though, because I had the idea once that there was a list of things I wanted them to do. I said, I'll just send it to you through the broadcast in the breakout room. Well, about 1.5 questions of my 5 questions like actually fit in the broadcast message. So just be aware that it's a limited number of characters and it doesn't persist forever on their screen. You might have noticed that. So just be aware of those things. But that's kind of the quick and easy on breakout rooms. You have to have them enabled in your account. So that's usually not through the app, but through your actual account. So if you go to zoom.us, that's the URL to get to your account. And then there's settings, and that's where you enable things like breakout rooms, polls, private chat. You can also set up polls and breakout rooms ahead of time. For example, if you're hosting a student meeting and you're going to have 100 students and they're going to be able to choose from like 7 different topics, you can go ahead and put those breakout rooms in your meeting ahead of time by going into your account. You can also assign people ahead of time by their email addresses. I do not use that one very frequently because I find that if students are not logged into the app or they're logged in on a different email than what you think their email is, they don't get automatically assigned. But if you wanted to have the rooms named ahead of time, you can go in and assign those rooms and name them. Keep in mind that if you assign breakout rooms within the meeting itself, and then you leave the meeting and come back into the meeting, the breakout rooms do not persist. So because I've had the thought, oh, I'll just open up the meeting ahead of time, put all the breakout rooms in, close the meeting, and then tomorrow when I open it again, they'll all be there. They're not. So, you know, yeah, Susan, I'm pretty sure that those are only visible to the host. The coffee cup for need a break, the yes, no, I believe those are only visible to the host, but the reactions like the clapping, the little confetti coming out of the horn, those are visible to everyone. So it is a slight difference, and they're enabled separately in your account. Another thing to keep in mind about breakout rooms is that I don't know if this has changed, but if students are in the waiting room and you assign them to a breakout room while they're in the waiting room, when they come into the main meeting, they aren't in the breakout room anymore. I don't know why. That seems like it would be an interesting feature to have them stay in the breakout room, but they don't. And keep in mind, when I say in the breakout room, I mean assigned to. They're not in the room until you open the room, but you can assign them ahead of time before you open the rooms, you can assign them. I already mentioned co-hosts. Someone last time asked about, oh, there's another chat question. Let's see. Nonverbal. Okay, I already saw that one. Someone asked about polls. They were saying that they had a hard time, once you had polls established, adding another poll on the fly. And I could not figure that out for a while either. But what you have to do is, if you already have some polls and you are the original host, when you open up the polling, there should be an edit button somewhere, which I would have thought meant edit that poll. But actually, if you click that edit button, you have the chance to add more polls to the ones that are already there. But again, only if you're the original host of the meeting. So if someone else has given you the host controls, you don't have the ability to do that. Another thing I believe is true when you record is that I've seen recordings done in gallery view and the name does not appear on the picture, just the picture appears. And maybe that's a setting, I'm not sure. But again, I'm learning new things about Zoom all the time. Oh, I didn't do the little presentation about how to run your class. I can talk about a few things that I was going to do in the presentation. One thing I would say about running your class is that I recommend use the same Zoom link and password or whatever you're going to use for the whole semester. If you want to have a specific room for that meeting, make it a recurring meeting and have it be the same all semester. And then publish it early and often. So send it to them in email, post it on your LMS, put it in your syllabus, post at the bottom of your email signature. In Arundel, if you have a school email account, you can link it directly to your Zoom, to your Canvas. I mean, a school Zoom account, you can link it directly to Canvas, and there's a little Zoom button. If you don't have that capability or you're not using the school account, I would say put an announcement right on the homepage with a link. Here's the link, so that students will know who it is. In terms of practice ahead of time and act like you know what you're doing. Like, you've all been teachers for a while, so you all know the fake it till you make it, and you do that all the time. So act like you know what you're doing. Maybe for your first class, don't do a lot of fancy stuff. Just have the students come in, just talk to them. Don't try to do a poll and a screen share and a whiteboard. Just do what you know how to do. I definitely recommend practicing ahead of time. My sister and my husband have all sat through many, many Zoom practice meetings with me when I want to try new stuff. You can also, if you're careful, I have also practiced with myself with my PC, my phone, and my laptop, a PC, phone, and tablet, and trying to see how everything works. Be careful about that though, because you got to make sure that at least 2 of those devices are muted. Otherwise you get like wicked feedback, which is another thing to keep in mind. Sometimes students will join, or people will join your meeting, and they'll have computer sound and they dial in at the same time. And if you're getting some kind of weird feedback, then ask that person to make sure that their phone controls themselves are muted, so that the only sound they are getting is the phone sound. Otherwise, they're kind of getting the phone call sound plus the internet sound over their phone, and they'll get a reverb. If you are using your own PC, most PCs have some kind of a cutout that the sound from your own speaker doesn't go into your own microphone. But depending on if you have a dual monitor and different microphones, you can have a situation where your speaker sound is going into your microphone. And in that case, again, just look at that sound and sound control and see if you can figure out by selecting a different microphone or different speaker to get that to stop. And again, that's something you just have to kind of practice with to see how it works. As far as whether you require your students to have their cameras on or off, I do not require my students to have cameras on. I find though that it helps if you kind of encourage them to do it. And again, if you kind of model the behavior, I also tell them, you're going to have to do a lot of Zoom meetings if you're at work or whatever. So if you want to have your camera on during class, it's like practicing to be on Zoom, and you can kind of see, how it's going to work out. But I also understand that students, they may not have a good background. They may be other things going on. They don't want to show their cameras. I'll do one more quick thing, and then I'll have about 5 minutes for questions. Another thing you can do, this works on computers and on some versions of iPhones and iPads. It doesn't work on Androids. It doesn't work on earlier versions of iPhones and iPads, but you can choose a virtual background and choose a video filter. And those are all available from the little caret up on your video controls in the bottom. So you can choose a virtual background. For example, if I want to be at the Golden Gate Bridge, now my computer's running slowly. I can make myself at the Golden Gate Bridge. You can upload other photos if you just want to have a photo. Like I noticed that some people have photos of their school, of the beach, or whatever. You can also use video filters, which are kind of cool because you can I can put myself on television. Yay! I can give myself sunglasses. There's all kinds of things you can do. And I encourage you to kind of, experiment with those if you want to. Unfortunately, again, they don't work on all devices and they don't work on all versions of devices. But it's a good idea if you can let your students know how to find those things as well, so that if they want to have their camera on, but they don't like the fact that there's a messy room behind them, or you see someone else in their house working, they can put a virtual background behind them. That, I think, is pretty much my quick tour through Zoom. How to do that during a meeting. Again, if you're on a PC, next to your little stop video or enable video, there should be a little up arrow. And when you click that, you should see a video settings choice, or you should see a virtual background or a video filter choice. And that's where you set those. Again, if you're on a phone or an iPad or a tablet, you might not even have that option. available. Ooh, Susan's getting fancy. She's on a game show now. I like that. Yeah. So that's all I have, unless anyone has other questions. When can I talk about having options to have little like practice sessions? I think it's hard to do practice with like 25 or 30 people, but if you had like 3 or 4 people that wanted to get together for a practice, we could take turns hosting and take turns sharing content. So I don't know if Wendy's going to talk about that, but
well, when I send it, what I will say is, and please keep typing questions if you, and how do you run a PowerPoint slideshow and still see the students? Let me have you address that first.
Usually, now, I don't know if this is a setting that I've done in my Zoom account or if it just was that way. Generally, when I run a PowerPoint and I share my screen, not share the application, I will see a column of 5 or 6 students down the side of my PC, and I can move up and down and see more students. That's what I normally see. But I don't know how I made it that way, to be honest with you. So
yeah, I can't see any of my students. All I see is the PowerPoint.
Yeah, I can again, what I usually do when I can't figure it out is I just Google it, like, why can't I see my students when I show a PowerPoint in Zoom? And usually I find something. I'll see what I can find, but I know that until recently, at least, I haven't taught this semester. Yeah, I don't know if that's a feature in the gallery or not. Sometimes when you're, yeah, I don't know. You'd have to look and see. Maybe when you're showing, there's a little something you can change with your view. I'll see what I can find out. I also know that Zoom does make updates frequently, and they don't always tell you when they've updated something. So sometimes features can change kind of without you realizing it. So I'll see what I can find out.
Thank you, very helpful.
Sure.
Yeah, Larry said, would that be a feature of the gallery?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There might, like, I don't see just right now I see speaker view and gallery view, but I don't know when you're showing. You might get different options when you're showing things. Oh yeah, thank you. There's a support link there. Thank you, Julie.
Yeah, and there are, and I was talking to Marjorie about this, there are a ton of YouTube videos too on different things. That's, like what I do sometimes to practice. But in my particular case, when I was talking to Marjorie earlier, that I don't have an opportunity to be with a bunch of people all the time. So when I send out the information, you will all be getting a link. You can actually just go to the YouTube channel for Maryland Online, and you will see this recording either later today or tomorrow. And I will resend the document that she shared if in case you need it or lost it. You'll get it again. And I can put that question in. You'll all get the email if you guys are interested in maybe have an informal group once in a while meet, and everybody gets a chance to kind of practice these things before you have to take it on the road to the classroom. That would be, that'd be helpful. It'd be helpful for me. I don't know if anybody else, but in any case, I want to thank Dr. Rawhouser again for doing a wonderful job. I think she's already setting up for part 3, so look for that. I'll send you information when we do this again, because we're all still using Zoom. Thank you, everyone. Look in your inbox for the email with all the information, and thank you, Marjorie.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.